Corruption, a global phenomenon infecting governments and institutions, betraying trust and perverting power. It siphons resources, creates an uneven playing field, and undermines society's foundations. In Europe, corruption scandals lead to public scrutiny and legal consequences, showing no one is above the law. In China, anti-corruption campaigns target high-ranking officials, demonstrating a zero-tolerance policy. These examples highlight the varied global responses to corruption. Africa, rich in resources, is plagued by corruption, a crisis infiltrating all levels of society. Unlike other regions, corrupt leaders often enjoy public support, raising questions about the cultural factors at play. European history shows powerful figures like French President Jacques Chirac brought low by corruption. Operation Clean Hands in Italy exposed deep-seated corruption, leading to significant political reforms. These cases reinforce that corruption has severe consequences. In China, Xi Jinping's anti-corruption campaign targeted officials at all levels, sending a clear message. Zhou Yongkang's downfall exemplified the campaign's reach. Despite concerns about due process, the campaign significantly curbed corruption. Africa's culture of impunity erodes public trust and hinders development. Corruption diverts resources from essential services, perpetuating poverty and inequality. Breaking this cycle is crucial for Africa's future. Colonialism's legacy sowed the seeds of patronage in Africa, intertwining power with personal gain. Independence did little to dismantle these entrenched systems. The colonial legacy continues to impact Africa's struggle against corruption. Poverty perpetuates corruption in Africa, as survival often trumps ethical considerations. Weak institutions struggle to combat corruption, creating a climate of impunity. Addressing poverty is essential for tackling corruption effectively. Ethnicity and politics complicate corruption in Africa, with ethnic loyalties often overshadowing accountability. Corrupt leaders exploit these divisions, undermining national unity. Promoting cohesion and strengthening institutions are key to combating corruption. In Kenya, corrupt leaders enjoy support from their communities due to a sense of kinship. This phenomenon fuels a cycle of patronage and dependence. Changing mindsets and fostering accountability are crucial in the fight against corruption. Section 2. A culture of silence, fear, intimidation, and the crushing weight of conformity. In many Kenyan communities, speaking out against corruption, especially when it involves one of our own, is met with swift and often brutal retribution. A culture of silence pervades, enforced through a potent mix of fear, intimidation, and the crushing weight of societal conformity. Whistleblowers are branded as traitors, ostracized from their communities, and left vulnerable to threats, violence, and even death. This culture of silence is carefully cultivated by corrupt leaders and their networks of patronage. They understand that their grip on power depends on maintaining a facade of invincibility, of silencing dissenting voices, and ensuring that their actions are met with unquestioning obedience. This is achieved through a combination of carrot-and-stick tactics, a mix of patronage and brutality that keeps potential dissenters in check. Those who dare to speak out often find themselves facing a barrage of threats and intimidation. Their businesses are targeted, their families harassed, their reputations smeared. In extreme cases, they are subjected to physical violence, forced disappearances, or even extrajudicial killings. The message is clear: challenge the status quo, and you do so at your own peril. This culture of silence has a chilling effect on accountability. It creates an environment where corruption thrives unchecked, where the powerful operate with impunity, and where the voices of the marginalized are silenced. Breaking this culture of silence is essential for creating a more just and equitable society, one where citizens are empowered to hold their leaders accountable without fear of reprisal. Section 3. Crumbs from the master's table. When patronage masquerades as progress. The enduring support for corrupt leaders in Kenya is often justified by pointing to the tangible benefits they bring to their communities. Roads are built, schools are constructed, hospitals are equipped, all seemingly evidence of progress and development. However, a closer examination reveals a more insidious reality. These projects are often marred by inflated contracts, shoddy workmanship, and a blatant disregard for procurement procedures. These acts of patronage, while seemingly beneficial, mask a deeper system of corruption that ultimately harms the very communities they are meant to help. The inflated costs of these projects drain public coffers, leaving fewer resources available for essential services like healthcare, education, and sanitation. The shoddy workmanship ensures that these projects are unsustainable, requiring constant repairs and upgrades that further line the pockets of corrupt officials and their cronies. Moreover, this system of patronage creates a culture of dependence, where communities are conditioned to rely on the largesse of corrupt leaders rather than demanding sustainable development and accountable governance. It's a vicious cycle. Corruption fuels patronage, which in turn perpetuates a culture of silence and undermines the very foundations of a just and equitable society. The fight against corruption in Kenya requires more than just tackling individual acts of graft. It demands dismantling the entire system of patronage that allows it to thrive. This involves promoting transparency and accountability in public procurement, empowering citizens to demand quality services, and fostering a culture where progress is measured not by the number of projects launched, but by the tangible improvements in the lives of ordinary Kenyans. The consequences of electing and supporting corrupt leaders are devastating, leaving deep scars on Kenya's present and casting a long shadow over its future. The most immediate and heartbreaking casualty is the erosion of hope. When citizens see their hard-earned money lining the pockets of corrupt officials instead of building schools, hospitals, and roads, a sense of despair sets in. The dreams of a better future, of a Kenya where opportunities abound and prosperity is shared, crumble under the weight of greed. Young people, brimming with potential but starved of opportunities, watch as their peers, connected to the corridors of power through nepotism and bribery, advance while they remain mired in poverty. This breeds cynicism, a belief that the system is rigged against them, that hard work and integrity are no match for connections and corruption. This erosion of hope is not just an abstract concept, it has tangible consequences. It manifests in the rising crime rates, the drug abuse epidemic, the increasing number of young people risking their lives on dangerous journeys in search of a better life abroad. It's a slow poison, eating away at the fabric of society, leaving behind a generation disillusioned and adrift. Kenya, a nation blessed with abundant resources and a vibrant population, deserves better. It deserves leaders who prioritize the welfare of their people over personal enrichment, who view public service as a sacred trust, not an opportunity for self-aggrandizement. Until that day comes, the cycle of corruption and despair will continue, robbing generations of Kenyans of their birthright, a brighter future. The consequences of corruption extend far beyond the immediate erosion of hope. One of the most insidious effects is the brain drain, the exodus of skilled professionals seeking opportunities and a brighter future abroad. Every year, thousands of Kenya's best and brightest, doctors, nurses, engineers, teachers, entrepreneurs, pack their bags and leave, their skills and talents lost to nations that offer a level playing field and a government that values their contributions. These individuals, often educated at great personal sacrifice, represent Kenya's greatest asset, its human capital. Yet, instead of harnessing their potential to build a better Kenya, they are driven away by a system that rewards mediocrity and corruption over merit and hard work. They witness firsthand the stifling effects of nepotism, where jobs and opportunities are reserved for those with connections, not qualifications. This brain drain has far-reaching consequences. Hospitals are left understaffed, schools struggle to find qualified teachers, and businesses lack the skilled workforce needed to compete in the global economy. This, in turn, hinders economic growth and perpetuates the cycle of poverty and inequality that fuels corruption. The solution is not to build walls to keep people in, but to create an environment that encourages them to stay. This requires tackling corruption at its root, promoting meritocracy, and investing in education and healthcare. creating a Kenya where opportunities abound and the best and brightest are not forced to seek their fortunes elsewhere. Perhaps the most insidious consequence of electing and supporting corrupt leaders is the division it sows within Kenyan society. The politics of patronage, of favoring our own regardless of merit, creates deep fissures along ethnic and tribal lines. It fosters a climate of suspicion and mistrust, where every government action is viewed through the lens of ethnic competition, not national interest. This division is further exacerbated by the rhetoric of corrupt leaders, who often resort to ethnically charged language to deflect criticism and consolidate their power base. They pit communities against each other, exploiting historical grievances and fanning the flames of ethnic animosity to maintain their grip on power. This cynical manipulation of identity politics has a corrosive effect on national unity and cohesion. The consequences of this division are all too real. It manifests in the post-election violence that has marred Kenya's recent history, in the land disputes fueled by ethnic tensions, in the discrimination and marginalization faced by those deemed to be outsiders. It weakens the very fabric of society, making it more susceptible to manipulation and exploitation by those who seek to profit from chaos and division. Building a more just and equitable Kenya requires transcending these divisions. It demands embracing a national identity that celebrates diversity while emphasizing shared values and aspirations. It requires leaders who appeal to the better angels of our nature, who unite rather than divide, who govern in the interest of all Kenyans, not just a select few. Only then can Kenya break free from the shackles of corruption and realize its true potential as a united and prosperous nation. As we've journeyed through the disheartening landscape of corruption in Kenya, one thing is abundantly clear. This is not just a problem for politicians and policymakers to solve. It's a battle that demands the collective will and action of every Kenyan. We, the people, have the power to break the chains of this insidious system, to reclaim our nation's destiny, and to build a future worthy of our children's dreams. This fight begins with a fundamental shift in mindset. We must reject the allure of our own when it blinds us to corruption and incompetence. We must challenge the culture of silence that protects the corrupt and perpetuates impunity. We must demand more from our leaders, holding them accountable not just for their words, but for their actions, their integrity, and their commitment to the common good. This is not a fight for the faint of heart. It demands courage, resilience, and an unwavering belief in the possibility of a better tomorrow. It requires us to stand together, transcending the divisions of ethnicity, tribe, and social status, united by a shared vision of a Kenya free from the grip of corruption. The path forward is clear. We must strengthen our institutions, empowering them to investigate and prosecute corruption without fear or favor. We must embrace transparency and accountability, demanding open and honest governance where resources are used for the benefit of all, not just a select few. We must empower our young people, providing them with quality education, opportunities for meaningful employment, and a stake in shaping their nation's future. The journey will be long, and the road will be fraught with challenges. But let us never forget that the power to change our nation's destiny rests ultimately in our hands. Let us rise to the occasion, reclaiming our nation's promise and building a Kenya where integrity, justice, and prosperity prevail. A Kenya that future generations will look upon with pride, knowing that we, their ancestors, had the courage to break the chains of corruption and forge a brighter future for all.